Most car problems and breakdowns are actually avoidable. Now, I say that it just requires you to notice the symptoms. When we go to the doctor, it's generally because we've got some symptoms, not because we've dropped down with a very serious health problem. And it's the same with cars. If we can catch things early enough, we can reduce the amount of money we have to pay to repair them, and we avoid suffering the inconvenience of a breakdown. One of the biggest engine killers really is the engine overheating. If the engine gets too hot, it's going to damage the head gasket. The components inside the engine are likely to fail as well. You're degrading the oil, so you're going to experience greater wear and tear further down the line. And you can even have a situation where the pistons seize up inside the engine, just requiring a replacement engine. All of these expensive repair costs are avoidable if we just keep our eye on the temperature gauge. Now, what we're looking for is anomalies where the temperature isn't quite climbing as quickly as it used to, or it's exceeding the general baseline that we would normally have driving under these conditions. We need to look out and diagnose the source of the problem. It's often the coolant is just too low. Perhaps the additive in the coolant has got out of spec and it's not quite as efficient at reducing the engine temperature. It may be there's a leak in the coolant system and that's why the level is dropping. It could be the engine is starting to burn the coolant, which is a bad sign, and you've got problems inside the engine to investigate. Or it could just be the water pump, and that's probably the most common thing. The water pump is just starting to fail. A lot of manufacturers use these plastic impellers, and that's, in my opinion, just asking for trouble. They will fail after a period of time, and certainly when you change the cam belts and the timing chains, it's a good opportunity to go in and change the water pump on most models. That brings us nicely to timing belts and timing chains. They break and snap. When they do, you were talking about catastrophic engine problems. If that timing belt fails, all of the components inside the engine, the pistons, the valves, the crankshaft, they all become out of sync, and you get serious problems with potentially with valves being slapped straight into the pistons, causing them to bend or break and causing other damage inside the engine. That's completely avoidable if we change the belt or the timing chain. Intervals set by manufacturers are often a little optimistic, but certainly after about 7 years and about 70,000 miles, we should be thinking about changing the belt. Look at what the manufacturer is actually recommending, and if it's outside of these parameters, generally stick to the 7-year, the 70,000 mile rule of thumb. With some engines, or if you drive it hard or you do lots of short journeys, there might be an argument for reducing the time. If you do very low mileages, you might get away with 8 or 9 years on some setups, but still you shouldn't exceed the mileage that was specified by the manufacturer or the 70,000. Let me know what your thoughts are on belt replacement or chain replacement on engine. Brake problems, usually the situation is the pads just get worn, the friction material starts to degrade. You start to get a squeal. They're designed to squeal because that gives us a little bit of a clue that the pad is starting to wear thin, and that should be the opportunity to replace it. If we ignore that and we drive around with squealing brakes, we're actually damaging the discs, the rotors. The pad surface is often worn right down, so you have metal on metal, and you're not just required to replace the brake pads, you then have to replace many more of the brake components, and that can add many hundreds to the repair bill. And that was just because we ignored a symptom early on. It's also a good idea to keep on top of the fluid changes. Brake fluid does degrade. When it degrades, you might not even notice it in day-to-day driving, but if you do a lot of braking, perhaps you've gone down a hill, there's a lot more heat in the braking system, it can lead to premature brake fade or brake failure just because we've not changed the brake fluid. Particulate filters, they're in the exhaust, they trap the soot particles as they come out of the engine. Most people agree that they are a royal pain, but due to emissions regulations, we're kind of stuck with them in most regions. It's illegal to remove these items. But having said that, most of them are not a problem if we use good quality fuel, we give the car a decent run, and we avoid lots of short trips and short journeys in the car. I've had many comments left on other videos, and you can just scan through them to check that what I'm saying is accurate, but many people have said that when they've switched to premium fuels, it's particularly the additives in the premium fuel, not necessarily the higher octane or the higher cetane aspect, but the additive is reducing the amount of soot that the engine engine is producing. It helps to keep the injectors clean. It makes sure there is a much cleaner burn going on inside the engine, so there's less residue going into the particulate filter to start with. And on the basis of the experience of many of our viewers and people that I've seen in my day-to-day life, if you keep on top of this routine of using good quality fuel, good quality additives in the fuel as well periodically to keep those injectors nice and clean, and you use the correct spec of oil and coolant in the engine, you're going to have a long, happy life. The engine is going to run well, and you're not going to have the problem with the particulate filter clogging up every few months and having to have a forced regeneration or requiring replacement. Power steering failure, we tend to rely on our power steering and just take it for granted, but there's a lot of work that's going on inside that. Firstly, drivers can damage the power steering system by keeping their foot on the brake and steering. The wheels need to rotate as they move, and if you're stopping that rotation from happening by keeping your foot on the brake, you are straining the power steering system and you're also straining the brake system. Really a bad habit to get into, but the important thing is to keep on top of the fluid changes to make sure the power steering fluid is fully topped up and that you observe the recommended intervals or exceed the recommended intervals by reducing the replacement period when you go to change this item. Clutches, we still have a lot of manual drivers here in the UK. Let me know what the situation's like where you are. Just keeping the car at biting point, misusing the clutch, lots of high RPM gear changes, lots of flat foot shifting. This all adds to wear and tear on the clutch. The hotter the clutch plates get, the more likely it is that they will wear prematurely and will start to have a problem. If the clutch does burn out, it's going to cause problems. We're going to break down. Unless we're really good at rev matching and we can change gear without using the clutch, which is probably a skill I need to cover in another video, we're going to have problems, and we can just avoid it by keeping on top of good habits when using the clutch. And if we notice the biting point is starting to get high and we notice that it's starting to slip a little, replace it. Don't wait for it to fail, because you'll have a breakdown and all the associated costs and inconvenience that go along with that. Your transmission is an essential component. We need to let it warm up before we start really caning the engine and getting the performance out of it, but that's also true of the engine. The transmission fluid is doing a vital job keeping everything cool and lubricated and reducing friction. If that fluid level is too low, if the fluid has become degraded, then even on these sealed for life transmissions, it's a good idea to get the fluid changed, particularly if it is showing signs of degradation, it's becoming discolored, or the level is starting to drop, because that's just going to accelerate wear and tear on the gearbox. And if we've got a 6 or 7 speed automatic transmission with a dual clutch operation, repairs can be very costly indeed. And again, that is something that we can completely avoid if we just keep on top of the service items, making sure that the fluid is in spec and that we don't abuse the gearbox or the transmission when the engine and the transmission is cold. Suspension damage, often it's down to hitting potholes or hitting curbs. I see a lot of drivers just bumping up on the curb when they park the car. Rather than reverse into a space, it's easier to just drive over the curb and drop down into the space. Now, that's putting a lot of extra wear and tear on the tyres, the wheels and the suspension. And it's no surprise that drivers that have this habit often have suspension failures. Springs break, the shocks start to lose their ability to dampen the motion that's caused as the car rolls over bumps and potholes. And just ignoring the knocks and rattles that come from our suspension, making sure that the suspension is aligned, all these things can go a long way to catching these problems early on before they escalate and become much bigger problems. When it comes to battery failure, I've done quite a few videos dealing with battery problems, and generally we just have to make sure that the battery is not working too hard. We don't push our luck with the battery by running it right down. The car really needs about 70 to 80% of battery charge most of the time to ensure the longevity of most types of battery. If we're driving along with all the air conditioning on, the radio going, the heaters on, and the engine is getting insufficient time to top up the charge in the battery due to the short trips that we're doing, the battery level is just going to degrade every time we get into the car. And when we start running in the sort of 10 to 15%, the battery is doing a lot more work, it's struggling, and in cold temperatures that can just be too much and it can lead to a battery failure. So just making sure the battery is topped up. If if we are in a situation where we have to use a lot of voltage all the time and we have to do short trips, then putting the battery on charge periodically, some people have got a trickle charge set up when they park the car at home. That's a great way of making sure the battery life is extended. And we've seen people running batteries for 10, 15 years, whereas with neglect, you may have to replace the battery every 2 years. And that's certainly the case on some of these hybrids with the very small 12-volt batteries that are fitted. Tyres tend to fail and blow out, causing catastrophic damage, potential accidents, and certainly a major safety issue. So what can we do to avoid tyre blowouts and tyre problems? Well, inspecting the tyre periodically, we're looking out for bulges, cracks, splits. If we consistently drive in the gutters and pick up all the little bits of debris that are floating around in the gutter, we're going to be asking for trouble. We're going to be more subject to punctures. So driving in the actual road rather than at the extreme side of the road where it's safe to do so, avoiding driving over those middle bits of the road at junctions that are full of gravel, because there's generally a few screws and nails in those, and just keeping on top of the tyre pressures. Another thing that is more likely to cause a blowout or a puncture is having incorrect tyre pressures, whether it is too high or too low. It can lead to excessive heat buildup and incorrect flexing and deformation as it goes over bumps and potholes, and that can lead to the complete failure of the tyre. And that's really something we should ideally do once a week. Check our tyre pressures. If we've got a tyre pressure gauge, perhaps we rely on that, and we shouldn't do that because they are inherently inaccurate and late to tell us there is a problem with the tyre pressure. It's much better to keep on top of it. We can often see little punctures and little imperfections early on just by monitoring the tyre pressures. You'll notice one keeps dropping consistently more than the others, and it's time to just inspect that tyre more thoroughly and see why that situation is arising. And I think one of the biggest things that cause premature failure of the car is the engine oil, the lack of changes, the incorrect level. If the level gets too low, and I've seen some cars with shockingly low engine oil, it's become sludgy. People have ignored it for 2 years. They bring the car in and all that's left is this black sludge that's not really lubricating the engine. Now, you can change the oil on that. It'll still leave a lot of sludge in the engine unless you do a very thorough flush and clean out, but you've already done a lot of damage to the internal components. They're not being lubricated and protected as they would if the engine oil had been freshly changed. A lot of people on this channel are changing their oil at 3,000 to 6,000 miles. Ideally, you need to get an analysis done on your oil to just work out what that point of degradation is, and at that point where it is starting to degrade, that's the signal to get the oil changed. And we only have to do that a few times. Once we've got a baseline to work from, we know when we should be changing the oil in our particular case. It's going to be different depending on our engine and how we use the car. Short trips and long distance drivers are going to put different stresses and strains on the oil. Another thing that we can do is just to spot the error codes. Getting a cheap error code reader, most of them work with a mobile phone. They've got a little Bluetooth dongle that just plugs into the OBD2 port, will give us a heads up for potential problems that are looming. And just reading off the error codes, it'll often give you an idea what's failing, where the problem is, and that can give us a warning that there is a problem before we've even started to notice symptoms in the daily drive. And always catching problems early on is much more cost effective than letting them escalate into much bigger problems. Let me know if you feel I've missed anything off, if there's any avoidable breakdowns that can be completely mitigated or avoided just by taking steps as a driver or by maintenance. I really do appreciate your comments. Thanks for watching. Please boot the like button if you've enjoyed this video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. That really does help us to get out there. We're still a relatively small channel, and I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.